My name is Amelia Calder, but everyone calls me Mia. I'm 28, and until last Wednesday at 8:03 p.m., I thought I understood what the word us meant. The game hummed on low in the living room, background crowd noise looping in a polite roar, when my phone buzzed. Ethan, at Nina's tonight, deal with it. I read it twice. Then a third time, because sometimes shock wears a disguise called Shirley, I misread that. No punctuation beyond the period after tonight. No apology, no context. Just 8 words dragged across my chest like a key on paint. The first instinct was the loud one. Call, 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 blow the phone into ash with questions. Instead, my hand went still. There are moments when a person shows you the truest version of themselves. No mask, no perfume, no excuse. And you can either break yourself around it or draw a circle and step out. I set the phone down. The crowd on TV erupted, then dissolved. It felt appropriate. Ethan moved into my apartment 18 months ago. My name on the lease, my furniture, my chipped blue, mug of all mornings, my bookshelf with the novels I swear I'll read again. He buys groceries sometimes, sends his share of utilities on the first, unless he forgets, and I Venmo nudge him. This has always been my place that I let him share. That detail matters later. My eyes drifted to his gaming console under the TV, the tidy coil of controllers he never bothered to plug into the charging dock correctly, the aloe plant he pretended to water, the hoodie I borrowed that still smelled like cedar and a little like him. Suddenly, these were just shapes and fabric and leaves. A set, not a home. I stood, open in the hall closet, and pulled out my stash of good moving boxes, the kind you keep just in case, the kind that mean you're a secret pessimist or a practiced survivor. Tape gun in my back pocket, bubble wrap in a loop around my wrist like a bracelet. The rhythm saved me. Fold, tape, label. Hoodies and tees, Ethan. Clothe. Charging cables, Ethan. Tech. Books he never finished, Ethan. To read, LOL. It wasn't petty. It was precise. There's a difference. His tablet blinked awake on the coffee table when I moved it. A lock screen. A photo I didn't recognize of sunset and a shadowed girl's silhouette that wasn't me. A folder icon in the corner with a tiny chain symbol, like a mouth clamped shut. Passwords are doors. People show you who they are by how they use them. I set it gently into Ethan. Tech and kept going. By 11:37 p.m., my living room looked like a pop-up moving company. I wrote our address on the outside of Ethan. Bathroom. Just out of habit. Then blacked it out. Not our address anymore. I poured water into my chipped blue mug and watched the surface tremble as I thought about Nina. College ex, the one he called like a brother once, and I'd teased, "You mean sister?" He'd laughed too quickly. There's a laugh that is just air escaping a lie. I knew Nina's building, 20 minutes away. I dropped him there for a group study reunion months back, the kind where he waved me off at the curb and didn't kiss me goodbye because they're already waiting. I remember thinking, keep the engine running in your ribcage, Mia. Always keep it running. 3 elevator trips later, my trunk and back seat were Tetris perfect. I left the TV on. I didn't want silence chewing through the paint while I worked. The night outside was all sodium lights and moths auditioning for orbit. I drove with the windows cracked because the boxes made the car smell like a cardboard store. In the rear view, the skyline cut itself into squares and rectangles I'd learned by heart. The donut shop's flicker, the pharmacy's empty lot, the taillight blink of a bus that wasn't mine to catch. Nina's building had a lobby with a fake ficus and a bulletin board full of yoga flyers and lost keys. I didn't ring any bells. I didn't need to see anyone's face. I stacked his life, neatly, respectfully, at her door. Ethan. Close at the bottom, then. Ethan. Tech like a fragile crown. I tucked a note under the tape. Since you're staying here anyway. M. I stood there long enough to hear my pulse slow to something human. Driving home felt like returning to a new address wearing the old number. I parked, carried the tape gun back upstairs like a trophy, and set the bubble wrap on the counter. Then I opened my phone and purchased the smart lock I'd been eyeing for 6 months. Install now? It asked. I did. The new lock chirped, The app generated a code, and I watched the old brass knob become something that respected itself. Sleep found me without negotiation. At 7:22 a.m., a barrage of fists battered my door like hail. I blinked once at the ceiling, twice at the notification light on my phone. Then I padded to the peephole and looked. Ethan, disheveled, furious. His hair did that stubborn swoop that used to make me smile. Not today. Mia, open the door. My key doesn't work. I clicked the main deadbolt open but kept the chain on. The door cracked. I let the chain speak for me. Boundaries. Morning, Ethan. What did you do to the locks? Upgraded them. Only residents have access. I am a resident. Were, I corrected. Past tense doesn't need a fight. It just is. You chose to spend the night at your ex's and told me to deal with it. I did. It wasn't like that. We were just talking. Nina's roommate was having a crisis. I hope they feel better, I said, and meant it. Your things are at Nina's. You'll want to hurry. The hallway gets busy. He tried to push the door, the chain held with a clean metallic refusal. Behind him, Mrs. Lon from 4B angled her head out like a curious pigeon. You can't do this. I have rights. You're not on the lease. You don't receive mail here. You contributed toward bills while dating me. You did not acquire tenancy by osmosis. Calm as a blade when it's sharp. I didn't raise my voice. I honed it. His face flashed red, then white, then red again. The emotional traffic light of a man realizing an audience has gathered. I'll call your landlord. Do. Dimitri loves me. Tell him the part where you wrote, deal with it. He's a fan of sentences that own themselves. I'll call my dad. Call anyone you want, Ethan. My voice stayed steady, but inside something shook. A chandelier after a slammed door. I hated that he still had that power to rattle my wiring. I breathed once, slow. The shake settled. He gathered himself into a smaller kind of anger, the kind that whispers instead of shouts. Where's my laptop? Safe and sound, labeled, outside Nina's door. You're insane. I'm organized. He stepped back like he might make a scene in the hall, but Mrs. Land cleared her throat. Young man, she said, voice spry as a violin string. The sign downstairs says no disturbances before 8 a.m. You're already late to that party. He scowled. This isn't over. It is for me. I closed the door. The chain chimed back into place with a tidy kiss of metal. He pounded for 3 more minutes, long enough for me to pour coffee into the mug of all mornings and lean against the counter like a lighthouse. Silence arrived. It was heavier than I expected. Relief can be a weight before it becomes a wing. On my phone, a notification fluttered. Unusual activity detected on your account. I thumbed it away, assuming spam. Another ding. Password reset requested. Odd. I made a mental note to change everything later. Passwords are doors. I showered, pulled on jeans, and started reclaiming the apartment one corner at a time. I moved his empty sneaker rack out to the hall for donation. I pulled the couch away from the wall and swept up the tiny constellation of popcorn kernels that had lived back there like exiled planets. I opened the windows and let October air do what it does best, remove the ghosts that smell like stale cologne. When I sat down, the apartment sounded different, lighter. The refrigerator hum was a friendly neighbor instead of a droning complaint. I texted my friend Sophia a single photo. The stacked boxes outside Nina's door, the note peeking like a tongue. Sophia. Holy plot twist. Are you okay? Me. Better than okay. Clear. Sophia. He'll spin this. He always spins. Me. Let him. I have nouns and time. At 9:12 a.m., my phone rang. Dimitri. I smiled. Morning. Morning, Mia. Everything all right? I received an interesting voicemail from a young man insisting he needs a key to your apartment. Said he's your co-tenant. Ex-boyfriend. Not on the lease. He chose to spend the night at his ex's and told me to deal with it, so I did. Dimitri sighed, a sound halfway between paternal and pleased. Then I will deal with him, by not dealing with him at all. Thanks, Dee. You always pay on time. I protect my good tenants. A beat. Also, I upgraded the camera in the lobby. In case you need footage, ask. I didn't think I would, but it was nice to know the building had a memory longer than a rumor. By noon, Ethan had stopped knocking. I ate toast at the table and watched the slant of light climb the wall like it had somewhere better to be. The apartment didn't feel empty, it felt honest. I changed my Netflix password for good measure, then scheduled time on my calendar to rotate all the rest. Clarity isn't an emotion, not exactly. It's an instrument. You tune it, you learn it, and then you play. Outside in the hallway, I heard Mrs. Land's door close. Somewhere downstairs, the mailroom lock clicked. Keys, locks, doors. So many ways people announce their intentions. Ethan had asked me to deal with it. I had. The key turned, and for the first time in months, it turned for me. By early afternoon, the day had learned my name again. I folded laundry that actually belonged to me, ate an orange over the sink like a teenager, and answered 2 work emails with the ruthless clarity of a woman who'd slept beside her own spine for the first time in months. At 1:04 p.m., my phone lit up with Sophia again. Sophia, Nina just posted a story. You might want to see this. Me, bracing. Sophia. He showed up with boxes at her door, plural. She filmed the stack, captioned, Me. Accurate punctuation. I tapped through. The video was a shaky pan of cardboard and Sharpie and the note with my neat little dash. In the reflection of the peephole, a distorted Mia hovered like a ghost who files paperwork. Nina didn't speak. She didn't have to. Confusion is its own dialogue. Another ping, this time from unknown. Unknown. This is Leo. Black and white profile pic. Jawline like a ruler. The kind of man who looks allergic to chaos. I'm Nina's boyfriend. Could we not do this in the hallway? I stared at the screen. People always arrive with timing that suggests they've been listening at a door. Me. Not my hallway anymore. His things needed a destination. Leo. Understood. She's bringing them inside. I pictured Nina in pajamas inventorying the past on her welcome mat. The petty part of me wanted to feel glee. I didn't. What I felt was tidy, like a drawer that finally closes without catching on a loose spoon. I put the phone face down and went to the gym. Not my usual one. I chose a different location across town because control can be as simple as taking a left instead of a right. I lifted weights like they were doubts and watched them rise and lower until my arms hummed. By the time I headed to the locker room, my brain was quiet, a classroom after dismissal. While I laced my sneakers, Antonio, the desk attendant who knows me by my water bottle stickers, leaned in the doorway. Calder, he said, you picked the right branch today. Earthquake at the other one? Your ex came through like a storm with headlines. He told the manager you were unstable and needed a wellness check, then tried to start a conversation circle in front of the treadmills. I snorted despite myself. How very community theater. He's banned, temporarily. Maybe more if he keeps lobbying the stationary bikes. Thanks for the intel. Antonio pointed his chin at my phone. Expect a social media opera. He looked like a man who'd use italics aggressively. On cue, my notifications stacked like plates in a sink. Ethan had posted a plaintive black background with white text that said, Sometimes the people you trust most can make you homeless overnight. There was a moody song under it, the kind you inflict on an audience when you want to be the main character, but forgot to book the lead. I tapped once, saved the story for documentation, and responded publicly with a single screenshot, his 8-word text and my 2-word reply. No commentary, no emoji, just the receipts. Within minutes, responses stacked. A cousin of his I'd met twice DM'd me a quote about forgiveness that felt like a velvet hammer. I ignored it. A mutual friend wrote, Context? I ignored that too. I've learned the black hole appetite of other people's curiosity. You don't feed it, it starves. Then Nina, beautiful, wild-haired, once the kind of woman who could make a study group feel like a festival, commented under Ethan's post before he took it down. Is this why you showed up at my door with all your stuff? She added a yawning emoji, then a heart. Internet justice is messy, but sometimes it's efficient. The post vanished 5 minutes later. In its place, silence and a new private message from Robert, Ethan's father. The contact photo was a suit and a tie and a smile with too many teeth. Robert, Mia, be reasonable. You can't just throw a person onto the street. Me. I didn't. I delivered his belongings to the address he prioritized. Robert, relationships are complicated. He went to check on a friend. Me. He went to his ex. He told me to deal with it. I did, with bubble wrap. 3 dots blinked, stopped, blinked again. I pictured him somewhere in an office with walnut paneling, drafting a statement like he drafts emails. Concise, assertive, lacking oxygen. Robert, I'll be stopping by your building. We can discuss this calmly. Me. No need. Any further discussion goes through counsel if you believe there's a legal issue. There isn't. I set the phone down and drank water until the world clicked back into alignment. On the drive home, an ambulance slid by, siren high and thin. New smart lock, I thought. New passwords next. New rituals that are just old good habits. My lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and cold air. Doong, our security guard, late 20s, quiet eyes that catalog everything, looked up from his desk. Big day, he asked. Moderately cinematic. He tilted his head toward the vestibule glass. Outside, Robert stood in a charcoal coat, scanning the directory with his phone held chest high like a medal. He didn't come in. He just photographed the names and left. Documentation, I thought. The first refuge of a man who believes proof can be arranged to resemble truth. Do you want me to stay a few minutes? Doong asked. Just in case he returns with friends. I'll be okay, I said, but thank you. Also, if you ever saw me carry boxes out yesterday... He lifted a palm. I saw a tenant moving carefully labeled property that belonged to someone else. I helped with the elevator. If anyone asks me for a statement, I will say the same words in the same order. I exhaled a laugh. Legend. Professional, he corrected, but smiled. Upstairs, Mrs. Land's door cracked. Mia, you good? Better then. I leaned against her doorframe, and she drifted forward, bird-like. He'll be noisy for a while, she whispered conspiratorially. Noisy people get tired. Quiet people sleep. Is that a proverb? It is now. She patted my forearm and retreated to her apartment, where the television was always set to game shows and the kettle always singing. My phone pinged again. Anonymous tip, really just a friend of a friend with a taste for gossip, sent a screenshot of a group chat where Marissa was holding court. Marissa. Mia is heartless. She dumped him on the curb. Someone else. Wasn't it at Nina's door? Marissa. Details. I resisted the urge to correct her grammar. That's how you lose wars, fighting the commas. By evening, a fragile peace has settled. I changed the passwords I'd promised myself I'd change. Banking, email, streaming, cloud. The familiar two-factor chime became a lullaby. I poured noodles into boiling water and argued with the pot's impatience. The apartment smelled like garlic and small victories. At 8:15 p.m., the intercom buzzed. The old brass plate crackled like it had secrets. I pressed talk and said nothing, letting the static announce my skepticism. Mia, Robert's voice, close. It's Robert. I'd like to come up, have a civil conversation. I'm having dinner, I said. Civility is welcome. Conversations are scheduled. This is a misunderstanding, he said. Polite, practiced. You took a unilateral action. I took a reflective one, I said. You are outside my building, asking to enter. The metaphor writes itself. I'll be brief. No. A pause, a little exhale. I'm disappointed. That makes two of us, I said, and took my finger off the button. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Dimitri again. He's downstairs. Wants me to force you to let him up. A sigh that smelled like coffee. I told him I don't force women to do anything in my building. He left, slowly, like a man practicing losing. Thank you. Always. I put my phone face down beside the stove and watched the pasta water spit. In the quiet, a message slid across my screen from unknown. Unknown. We should talk. Me. Who's we? Unknown. Ethan. Me. No. Unknown. You overreacted. It was a crisis. Me. Yes, mine, and I solved it. 3 bubbles appeared. 3 bubbles disappeared. My phone stayed in my kitchen, and I walked to the living room where the light had decided to be gentle. By 10 o'clock p.m., the apartment felt like a book finally closing to the right page. I stacked her dishes, rinsed the sink, watered my plants, and stood at the window to count the floors between me and the night. Somewhere out there, a man practiced a story until he believed it. Somewhere else, his father rehearsed civility like a closing argument. Somewhere in a different building, a beautiful woman and a jawline arranged boxes on a rug and wondered at the way choices arrive with handles. As I turned off the lamp, the same warning flashed again on my phone. Unusual activity detected. Password reset requested. It was late. I was tired. I put the phone face down, thinking I'd do it in the morning. Sleep came with a pen in its hand, ready to edit. Thursday began with the kind of silence that fools you into thinking the storm is finished. Coffee bubbled, my laptop booted, and I even thought about ordering croissants, like a normal human with a normal life. That illusion lasted until my phone rang. Dimitri. Mia, he said, voice carrying the weight of someone who had already sighed twice this morning. Your ex-boyfriend called me again. Of course he did. He said you illegally evicted him, demanded a spare key, then suggested I should check on your mental state. The coffee in my hand tasted suddenly metallic. He asked you to do a wellness check on me? Yes, which I didn't because I'm not the police, I'm your landlord, but... Right on cue, a firm knock rattled my door. Not the desperate, rapid-fire pounding of Ethan. This was measured. Professional. Through the peephole, 2 officers. Deep breath. I opened the door wide. Let me guess, I said. Wellness check? The taller one adjusted his belt. We can't disclose the caller, but yes. Concern was raised about your safety. I stepped aside. Coffee's fresh. Come in. They exchanged a look, but entered, scanning the tidy apartment, the stack of his old sneaker rack by the wall, awaiting donation. I poured 2 mugs, my hand steady. Here's the situation, I said. Boyfriend sent me a text. At Nina's tonight. Deal with it. I replied, okay. Packed his things, delivered them there. He's not on the lease, not on the utilities, not on the mailbox. This has been my home since before him. He didn't like the consequence of his choice. Now he's escalating. I showed them the screenshot. Ethan's words in black and white. My tiny reply below. The taller officer's eyebrows twitched up, just barely. Ms. Calder, the shorter one said, do you feel like harming yourself? Officer, I feel like learning Italian. I feel like painting my kitchen cabinet sage green. I feel like buying myself croissants. What I don't feel like is self-harm. They wrote notes, polite but faintly embarrassed. Before leaving, the taller one said quietly, we'll document this as a false report. Just be aware. Some people escalate further. Story of my week. When the door clicked shut, I leaned against it, heart pounding. Not from fear, well, not entirely. From recognition. Ethan had learned to weaponize concern. Later that afternoon, I escaped to the grocery store because life goes on and I needed milk. In the cereal aisle, someone bumped into me a little too hard. Oh, Mia, said Marissa, friend of Ethan's. Hair perfect, tone casual like a stage whisper. Funny running into you here. You live across town, I replied flatly, eyeing the Lucky Charms she pretended to consider. She smiled with the sweetness of a dentist. So, heard about you and Ethan. Pretty harsh, don't you think? He's really struggling. He's on my couch, actually. He says you threw him away. I set my carton of milk down, considered her, then said, 3 years together, and he ended it with 8 words. I didn't throw him away. I took out the trash. Her smile faltered. Wow, he said you'd become cold. Then he was right, I said, reaching for the oatmeal. Cold keeps the food fresh. I left her standing in the aisle with her cereal box. That evening, my inbox pinged. Subject line, cease and desist. My stomach dropped until I read further. It wasn't from Ethan. It was from Nina's lawyer, directed at Ethan himself. The message laid it out. Cease contact. Stop showing up at my client's apartment. Stop spreading false claims. Continued harassment will result in restraining order. I almost laughed out loud until I scrolled down. Attached was Ethan's reply, and somehow I was CC'd. Maybe by accident, maybe by his warped sense of theater. This isn't harassment. Mia manipulated everything. I was checking on a crisis. She's vindictive. Nina owes me understanding after all these years. The lawyer's response came within the hour, also CC'd to me. Mr. Harris, my client owes you nothing. Future correspondence must be professional. Copying third parties on legal matters is inappropriate. Do not continue. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the words. Even Nina, his safe harbor, his just a friend, had built a wall of legal steel between them. The irony should have satisfied me. Instead, unease pooled in my stomach. If Ethan was CCing me on legal battles, what was next? His desperation wasn't cooling. It was heating. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with yet another alert. Password reset requested. Not my imagination, not spam. Someone was knocking on all my digital doors. I closed my laptop, locked my phone, and whispered into the empty apartment, not this door, not tonight. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end of his story, only the intermission. Friday morning arrived like a false apology. Soft light, quiet air, the illusion of calm. I made eggs, scrolled my phone, almost convinced myself the tide was pulling back. That illusion shattered at 9:17 a.m. when my credit monitoring app buzzed with red letters. Alert, new credit card application in your name. I froze. Not a phishing email, not spam. The real app. the one that had saved me from fraud once when I lost my wallet in Chicago. My social security number had been used. I sat down hard at the table. He didn't, but he did. By 9:45 a.m., I was on the phone with the bank, my voice calm the way a surgeon's hand is calm. Yes, I need to freeze all credit. Yes, I'll file a fraud report. No, I did not authorize this application. The officer who took my police report wore the same badge as the one from the wellness check. He recognized me. Ms. Calder, he said, pen poised. Was it your ex again? Yes. You realize this is escalating. I've realized. He nodded grimly. You may want to consider a restraining order. At 3 p.m., another knock at my door. I peered through the peephole and almost didn't open it. Not Ethan. His father, Robert, stood there alone, shoulders slumped. A man less lawyer, more father. I didn't undo the chain. Robert! Mia, please, I'm not here to argue. His voice cracked at the edges. I just learned. He tried to open a credit card in your name. That's a felony. He winced like the word itself had teeth. He told me you were being unreasonable, that you locked him out without warning. But this, his head dropped. Jesus Christ. Now you know. He placed a hand against the door frame, not pushing, just holding himself upright. I'll talk to him. He's not himself. Robert, I interrupted, this is bigger than father-son talks. From now on, if you or Ethan need to communicate with me, do it through lawyers. He nodded slowly, a man bracing against the collapse of his own roof. I understand. I'm sorry, Mia. Sorry doesn't patch felonies. He left, looking 10 years older. That evening, my phone buzzed with a new message from the gym. Antonio again. Antonio. You'll love this one. Ethan came in. Tried to cancel your membership. Said he was your husband. Me. My what? Antonio. Yeah. Manager asked for proof, he stormed out. I stared at the screen, half horrified, half darkly amused. Ethan's entitlement had grown fangs. He wasn't just trying to crawl back. He was trying to rewrite reality itself. By Saturday, the spiral deepened. Packages started arriving at Marissa's place. My name, her address. Address I never ordered. A set of headphones I didn't buy. All charged to the fraudulent card Ethan had somehow opened before I froze the credit. Marissa texted me a photo of the pile. These are showing up. Did you order them? I typed back. No, don't touch them. Police evidence. That night, I sat on the couch, clutching my chipped blue mug of all mornings like it could anchor me. The apartment hummed, warm and safe, but my stomach twisted. It wasn't just heartbreak anymore. It wasn't just lies or disrespect. Ethan had crossed into crimes with my name on them. Crimes that could stick like burrs to my life if I didn't fight back. I opened my laptop. New passwords. Stronger ones. New two-factor authentications. A new email, just for legal correspondence. Every lock tightened, every door reinforced. But the truth echoed in my chest. Ethan wasn't stopping. Not yet. And when someone is willing to weaponize love, pity, and even your own identity, what's left to defend? The answer pulsed with every keystroke as I reset another account. Everything. By Monday morning, I had hired a lawyer. Not a friend of a friend, dabbling in contracts. A bulldog. Her name was Valentina Koa, mid-40s, sharp suits, sharper mind. She'd built her career on stalking, harassment, and cybercrime cases. When I handed her the folder I'd compiled, texts, screenshots, credit alerts, police reports, she scanned it with a low whistle. Mia, she said, tapping Ethan's 8-word text with a manicured nail, this is the cleanest case of self-sabotage I've seen in years. He gift-wrapped his downfall. I don't want revenge, I said. I want him out of my life, and I want my name back. You'll get both. The avalanche started quickly. Valentina filed a formal complaint with the police, citing attempted identity theft, harassment, false police reports, and fraud. 2 days later, Ethan was arrested. Word traveled fast. That night, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it until I saw the name, Nina. Curiosity won, I answered. Her voice was steady, but I could hear exhaustion under it. Mia, I thought you should know. He's been coming to my office, leaving notes, even after my lawyer warned him, and... She paused. I found something. I think you should see it. Later that evening, an envelope slid under my door. Inside, a flash drive, a sticky note in looping handwriting. For your lawyer, you deserve the truth. I didn't open it yet. Some doors you let Valentina unlock. At the hearing, Ethan shuffled in, looking smaller than I remembered. Hair unwashed, blazer wrinkled like it had slept on a couch. He tried to make eye contact with me. I stared straight ahead. The courtroom smelled faintly of old wood and fluorescent lights. The judge, a woman in her 60s with eyes that belonged in both church pews and war tribunals, listened patiently as Valentina laid everything out. The false wellness check, the social media smear campaign, the fraudulent credit card, the packages delivered to Marissa's apartment, the attempted cancellation of my gym membership. Valentina's voice was measured but cutting, like a scalpel. Your Honor, this isn't heartbreak. This is escalation. Mr. Harris engaged in a deliberate campaign to control, harass, and harm my client, crossing into criminal territory. Ethan's public defender tried to spin a softer narrative. A man scorned, acting out of desperation after sudden homelessness. The judge's eyebrow rose. Mr. Harris was never on the lease. He announced his intent to stay at his ex's residence. Ms. Calder merely respected that choice. When Valentina produced the flash drive from Nina, the atmosphere shifted. The drive contained Ethan's strategy diary, typed entries detailing how he planned to test Mia's boundaries, make her jealous with Nina, and most damning, use her landlord and police against her. The courtroom went silent except for the click of the judge's pen. Mr. Harris, she said, voice cool steel, this demonstrates intent. You were not spiraling in grief. You were strategizing cruelty. Ethan's shoulders folded inward. For once, no excuses spilled out. The sentence was swift. 18 months probation. Mandatory counseling. Restitution for the fraudulent charges. 5-year restraining order. If you violate any of these terms, the judge added, you will serve jail time. Ethan nodded mutely, eyes on the floor. Robert was in the gallery, pale, fists clenched on his knees. He didn't speak to me. He couldn't. When it was over, Valentina packed her briefcase like a woman zipping up a completed puzzle. Textbook case, she murmured. And you, Mia, handled it like a strategist. Calm, documented, unshakable. I wanted to believe her. But as I left the courthouse, I still felt Ethan's eyes on me, haunting, pleading, angry, all at once. Freedom isn't a single door you walk through. It's every lock you check on the way out. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around my mug of all mornings, staring at the restraining order papers like they were both shield and scar. On the counter, the flash drive still rested. Nina's note fluttered in the draft from the window. You deserve the truth. Part of me wanted to burn it. The other part needed to know. And I realized I wasn't done yet. Not until I saw what truths Ethan left behind. The week after the hearing felt like waking up in a house after a storm. Roof intact, but tree branches everywhere, relief mixed with debris. Robert reached out through his attorney. A letter arrived on embossed stationery, accompanied by a cashier's check, $3,000, to cover fraudulent charges while the courts processed restitution. His words were stiff but sincere. I failed to see the truth soon enough. I am sorry. This will not happen again. I deposited the check. I did not deposit the apology. The apartment slowly remembered how to breathe with just me inside it. I moved the couch an inch to the left because suddenly I could. I bought new curtains in sage green, the color I'd once promised myself. I rearranged my bookshelf so my novels stood proud again, instead of hidden behind his games. And then, one late evening, I plugged in Nina's flash drive. Inside, a folder labeled Journal 2024. I clicked. Dozens of entries. Strategy, not grief. Each one a blueprint of manipulation. Test her. Spend a night at Nina's. See if she fights or folds. If she resists, play victim. Use Dad for backup. If she blocks me, escalate. Landlord, cops, whatever it takes. Passwords are keys. If I can't get into her door, I'll get into her accounts. I read until my chest felt hollow, then snapped the laptop shut. I slid the drive back into its envelope and tucked it deep into my lawyer's file. Not for me to carry anymore. For the record, for the system. Nina's note had been right. I deserve the truth. But some truths are for closure, not for keeping. Days turned into a rhythm of ordinary miracles. I bought croissants on a Tuesday because I could. I went back to my regular gym where Antonio gave me a salute and muttered, "Legend," under his breath. I even let Sophia drag me to a trivia night where laughter landed without bitterness. But trust was still tender. Some wounds close with stitches you can't see. I wasn't rushing to date again. My heart needed solitude more than companionship. One Saturday morning, while watering my succulents, the ones Ethan always neglected. I caught myself smiling at the sunlight pouring across the counter, a small, ordinary smile, peace disguised as routine. And then my phone pinged, a new Instagram account request. Username, dealwithit88. I didn't panic. I didn't flinch. I blocked it, documented it, forwarded it to Valentina. Then I set the phone down and sipped my tea. Because peace doesn't mean absence of storms. It means knowing you have a roof, a lawyer, and a spine. Final words? Ethan thought deal with it meant surrender. That I would absorb his disrespect, bend until I broke. He thought boundaries were threats. He thought love was leverage. But when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And when they tell you to deal with it on your terms. I closed my laptop, changed my Netflix password one last time, not out of fear, but out of habit, out of freedom. And as I curled into my couch with a blanket that smelled only like laundry detergent and sunlight, I whispered to the empty room, not bitter, just clear. This is my space, my life, my peace, and I dealt with it.